Chapter 801. Jian Fengqi paused for a moment, then looked over as if nothing had happened. His expression was still as carefree and unrestrained as ever. "Wasn't this young master waiting for you?" His tone was lazy, and the last syllable had a hint of ambiguity to it. There seemed to be a glimmer of light flashing through her icy eyes. It was overflowing with light and color, making people feel as if they were about to drown in it. Chani's face inexplicably heated up. Even though she knew that Jian Fengqi was just teasing her, she still felt a ripple in her heart. All these years, Jian Fengqi's reputation as a womanizer wasn't just for show. According to what Shang Guanyu had said, he was very good at coaxing young ladies. Jian Fengqi had always taken this evaluation as a compliment. Many times, using this kind of trick could save him a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, that stupid Shang Guanyu didn't understand at all. However, Jian Fengqi was also glad that he hadn't actually made a move. Otherwise, he might not even be able to leave the palace today. After all, Chani was Shang Guanyuan's personal maidservant for many years. Her mental fortitude was much stronger than that of ordinary women. She quickly adjusted herself and said, "Her Highness has agreed." "Her Highness has already agreed. Sir Jian can go to Jianghu Hall now." Jian Fengqi nodded with a smile. "Then I'll have to thank Her Highness and Miss Chani." After saying this, he walked away with relaxed steps. Chani glanced at where he had been standing and felt a little worried. However, when she thought about how everything had been done so smoothly and covertly, and how Jian Fengqi had only been standing there for a while, he probably wouldn't notice anything. Thus, she put the matter aside for the time being. For some reason, Her Highness's mood had been fluctuating between good and bad these past 2 days. She would decide whether to take the medicine masters what had sent over based on her mood. However, what was surprising was that her body seemed to be getting better. Compared to the beginning, there was an obvious improvement. Chani didn't know the reason, but she didn't dare to ask. She only carefully served her. Based on the current situation, Her Highness should be able to recover very quickly. Jiang Yuqing was also recovering at an extraordinary speed. With Feng Shanyuan's help, his body was getting better day by day. The wound on his chest had already formed a scab, and it would be completely healed after a period of time. Even the wound on his lower abdomen was showing signs of healing. The burning pain did not appear again. This made Jiang Yuqing heave a huge sigh of relief. Jian Fengqi came to Jianghu Hall alone. Compared to before, this place was much more deserted, but there were still many palace servants here. Upon seeing Jian Fengqi, a palace servant quickly came to greet him. "Greetings to young Master Jian." Obviously, they had already received the news. Jian Fengqi wasn't surprised and said honestly, "This young master is here today to return the Empress concubine's medical books." The palace servant hurriedly said, "Then this servant will take you there. This young master has been to this place many times. Do I need you to lead the way? This young master will go myself." Jian Fengqi interrupted the palace maid's words and walked straight in. He seemed to be walking slowly, but in fact, he was very fast. He walked like the wind and soon arrived inside. Seeing this, the palace servant hurriedly chased after him and said, "Young Master Jian, you can't go to that room." Jian Fengqi stopped in his tracks. "Why is that?" That was the Empress concubine's residence when she was alive. The palace servant did not dare to say anything too unpleasant and only stuttered for a long time. Jiang Yuqing did not think much of it. Even if the Empress concubine is still alive, she may not be able to stop me. Why, do you want to try? Although he was smiling, there was a bit of coldness in his eyes. The palace servants around him looked at each other. This young master is just going to return a few books. If you are worried that it will be difficult to explain, you can just follow this young master in later. This servant does not dare. If the third princess found out, his life would be in danger. Jian Fengqi lightly snorted. "In that case, when the door opens later, you can just watch from the outside. Won't that be fine?" The palace servants hesitated for a long time. Thinking that this was indeed the only way to compromise, they could only agree. Jian Fengqi walked inside. It was obvious that no one had been here for a long time. Everything was covered in a layer of dust. Jian Fengqi sneered in his heart. Shengguan Wan always bragged outside about how much she missed the Empress concubine and how much she valued the Empress concubine's things when she was alive. In the end, she even guarded the place where the Empress concubine lived when she was alive. Although the door was open, Jian Fengqi's back was facing the people outside at this time. He quickly scanned the room. The smile on his face gradually disappeared and his expression became serious. He walked to the desk, took out a few medical books, and placed them on the bookshelf behind. In fact, he did not make up the matter of returning the books. A few years ago, he did borrow a few books from Shengguanyu. After all, the public had the most rare books in the entire Tianling dynasty. Shengguanyu also liked to collect unique books. Jian Fengqi often came to her to ask for books to read. Sometimes, he would even see her annotations in the books. However, he often forgot to return them. This caused Shengguanyu to often make trouble for him. However, this time, he had forgotten for so long. No one urged him anymore. He put the books away one by one. In the end, he accidentally bumped his arm and a book next to him fell down. He bent down to pick up the book. Just as he was about to put it back, he saw that there was no title on the book's cover. The pages were slightly curled. It looked like it had been flipped through many times. He opened the book curiously. How many lines of words were written on the page? Jian Fengqi knew every word, but he did not understand what they meant when they were put together. However, this handwriting was indeed from Shengguanyu. When did she leave this behind? The mystic forest. Time passed slowly. In front of Chu Luiyue, a huge corpse was suspended in midair. After a long period of tempering, the bloodline power inside had almost been completely stimulated. The bloodline power that looked like blood vessels gradually became clear and finally condensed into a blood bead in the middle. Although this blood bead was only the size of a langan, it contained an extremely powerful aura. The skeleton's original jade-white color gradually became transparent. When the blood bead condensed, Chu Luiyue let out a long breath. Her clothes were already drenched in sweat, and her lips were a little pale. This was the great phoenix dragon skeleton. It consumed a lot of energy to refine the power inside, especially when Chu Luiyue was only a stage 5 warrior. If not for the boundless force stored in her energy center, she would not have been able to withstand it. When the blood bead condensed completely, Chu Luiyue did not rest. Instead, she immediately threw in a few herbs beside her. At the same time, with a thought, a guqin appeared beside her. On the body of the guqin, there was a faint purple-gold color that shone brightly. Digression: tomorrow at 12 o'clock, mobile users can browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 802. The Purplish Gold Bodhi Leaf. It lay quietly on the zither, its body covered in a layer of translucent red light. At first glance, it looked like a crystal-clear amber. Chu Luiyue carefully took it down, then put the zither away. She carefully examined the purplish gold Bodhi leaf in her hand. Although it was now trapped in this seal, she could still vaguely feel a vigorous life force. The purplish gold leaf glowed brightly. Chu Luiyue looked at the legendary three-eyed eagle and nodded lightly. Whoosh! The legendary three-eyed eagle flapped its huge wings. The surrounding aura surged. In the next moment, its third eye suddenly opened. A ray of red light shot out from within. It instantly enveloped the purplish gold Bodhi leaf. Crack! A faint cracking sound could be heard. A crack suddenly appeared on the seal outside the purplish gold Bodhi leaf. Immediately, the seal shattered, transforming into countless rays of red light that scattered in all directions. The purplish gold Bodhi leaf was completely exposed. It trembled slightly, then turned around and headed in another direction. It wanted to run. Chu Luiyue waved her hand, and a flame flew out from the heavenly square cauldron. It quickly formed a barrier in front of the purplish gold Bodhi leaf. The purplish gold Bodhi leaf sensed that something was wrong and hurriedly stopped. Just as it was about to run in another direction, the legendary three-eyed eagle flapped its wings again. An earth-shattering shriek rang out. Screech! This cry reverberated throughout the entire space and did not dissipate for a long time. reverence, admiration, longing. It sounded like a low chant from ancient times, with a heavy and ancient aura that shook one's soul. This was the summoning of the legendary three-eyed eagle clan to the sacred tree. The purplish-gold Bodhi leaf seemed to have sensed something and stopped trying to escape. Instead, it stood in place in a daze. Chu Luiwei inexplicably felt that there was a subtle connection between the legendary three-eyed eagle and the purplish-gold Bodhi leaf. Although she could not see it, she could still clearly feel it. It was a connection that had dissolved into their bloodline after tens of thousands of years of relying on each other. In the next moment, she saw Yi Qingling leap in front of the legendary three-eyed eagle. At this moment, the blood bead extracted from the great phoenix dragon skeleton had gradually merged with the other medicinal herbs. From the initial bright red color, it had turned into a rich reddish-black color. The legendary three-eyed eagle had been staring at the purple-gold Bodhi leaf for a few years now. A moment later, the violet-gold Bodhi leaf flew up slowly and stuck itself to its third eye. It was as if spring water had seeped into the frozen soil, dispelling all the chill. The purple-gold Bodhi leaf instantly fused into the third eye of the legendary three-eyed eagle. The crimson color in the eye quickly melted like a cracked ice surface. Then, a layer of faint purple-gold color spread out from it. Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat when that eye turned from scarlet to a purple-gold color. The third eye of the legendary three-eyed eagle had always been red in color, and it was filled with a fierce and cold aura. At this moment, the brutality and bloodiness inside had completely faded away. Instead, it was replaced by a shocking and incomparable nobility. Cold, noble, and disdainful. That was the unique pressure of a divine beast. Most importantly, it contained a trace of tenacious vitality, and it was glistening brilliantly. While Chu Luiwei was still in shock, the legendary three-eyed eagle moved and flew in front of the great phoenix dragon skeleton. It swallowed the black-red blood bead in one gulp. At the same time, one of the bones slowly flew up and fused into the huge black phantom. A moment later, flesh and blood began to grow on the sparkling and translucent bones. Chu Luiwei immediately urged the surrounding flames to surge over. It completely surrounded the illusory figure and began to burn wildly. With the help of the flames, the growth of the flesh and blood seemed to speed up a lot. Not long after, the position of the bones formed the shape of a wing. The great phoenix dragon and the legendary three-eyed eagle were not of the same race. Tracing back to its roots, the true ancestor of the legendary three-eyed eagle was actually the immemorial divine beast, the crimson gold heavenly phoenix. This also caused the legendary three-eyed eagle to be unable to completely borrow the great phoenix dragon skeleton. It could only choose a suitable one for its own use. Therefore, it only used this piece of bone to make its wing bone. However, the bloodline power in these bones had been completely refined by Chu Luiwei. Therefore, to the legendary three-eyed eagle, although it only used one skeleton, it had already turned all the power into its own. Chu Luiwei sent the remaining skeleton back to the heavenly square cauldron. Then the other half of the skeleton flew out. Back in the Tianling God realm, Chu Luiwei had actually obtained an entire set of bones. Taizu said that back then, in order to avoid being discovered by the great phoenix dragon race, the skeleton was divided into two parts. In the heavenly square cauldron, they were combined into one, but with the suppression of the heavenly square cauldron, there was no need to worry about this. However, when he took them out, Chu Luiwei deliberately separated them. Seeing that half of the wing was rapidly forming, Chu Luiwei took a deep breath and began to refine the bloodline power of this half of the skeleton. This process was actually very long. However, according to the legendary three-eyed eagle, it also needed a certain amount of time to completely fuse its soul with this skeleton. Therefore, Chu Luiwei still had plenty of time. The process that had been carried out previously was repeated again. When the flames surrounded the half of the skeleton and burned it to temper it, Chu Luiwei took out the second set of herbs from the long yuan sword. At this time, he couldn't help but be thankful that Taizu had left behind so many things. Otherwise, it would have taken a lot of effort just to gather these precious herbs. While Chu Luiwei was focused on helping the legendary three-eyed eagle reconstruct its body, on the other side, The Rong Xiu had already finished repairing the crack in the pure gold armor. It was smooth and looked almost exactly the same as before. It didn't look like it had been damaged before at all. If anyone saw this scene now, they would definitely be shocked on the spot. This was because a yuan tool of the level of the pure gold armor couldn't be completely repaired. However, the Rong Xiu had completely repaired it. This method could be said to be superb. Even Taizu, who was an expert in refining yuan tools, might not be able to do this. However, the Rong Xiu lowered his eyes and looked at the pure gold armor. He didn't seem to be satisfied. It was indeed a top-grade yuan tool. Unfortunately, it met the 2 Tian baby. Although it was repaired today, Chu Luiyue might encounter some kind of danger in the future. The Rong Xiu pondered for a moment and looked up at Chu Luiyue. She was concentrating on tempering the great phoenix dragon skeleton. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, and a faint golden color appeared on his fingertips. Then, he left a palm-sized pattern on the pure gold armor. That pattern flashed slightly and quickly disappeared. It was impossible to tell if it was the same or not. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 803. Xiling. The lanterns were lit, and the moon hung high in the sky. Chun Feng Restaurant was bustling with activity. However, Shui Lu stayed in her room alone and ignored everything outside. Today was her usual rest day, so she didn't welcome guests. Besides, she had something to do at night. She planned to make a trip to Jianghu residence. Originally, she discussed with Jian Fengqi to go tomorrow, but after thinking about it, she felt that it would be more discreet to take action at night. As Xiahou Rong had already returned to Xiling, he had been staying in the residence for the past few days. A few days ago, she thought that Xiahou Rong would definitely be wary since he had just returned. Today, they should have relaxed a little. As for that person's identity, it wouldn't be too late to confirm it when she had the chance. Shui Lu started to dress up. For safety reasons, she naturally had to change her appearance. She took out a thin human skin mask. Just as she was about to put it on, a familiar voice came from outside the door. "Where's Lu? Let her serve you." "Xiahou Tingan. Why is he here now?" And it sounded like he was a little drunk. Hearing the sound of someone going up the stairs, Shui hurriedly kept her things. "Second young master Xiahou, you came at the wrong time today. Miss Lu is resting today. Why don't you let another lady come?" Mrs. Zhang tried to persuade her in a gentle tone. "I only want her to accompany me today. I don't want anyone else." "Where is she?" "Ask her to come out." Perhaps it was because he was drunk, but Xiahou Tingan became more arrogant than usual and even dared to make a ruckus in Chun Feng Restaurant. Mrs. Zhang smiled and calmly stood in front of him. She seemed to be in a difficult position. "Second young master, it's not your first time coming to Chun Feng Restaurant, and you know the rules here. Miss Lu wants to rest, and even I can't persuade her to come out. Her temper has always been very stubborn. Even if she forces herself to come out, she'll definitely spoil your mood. Recently, we have a new lady here, and she's very good at playing the zither. Do you want me to bring her here?" However, Xiahou Chunin didn't listen and pushed her away. Bang! Nanny Zhang was pushed onto the railing, and her waist hurt from the impact. Xiahou Tingan chuckled in disdain and mocked her as he walked up. "Very good at playing the zither? What do you know? I've heard of the best zither in the world. Other people, how could they even be on the stage? Don't dirty my ears." Mrs. Zhang's expression changed slightly. She vaguely knew who he was talking about and suppressed the anger in her chest. She held her waist and followed him. "Second young master, this really won't do." Xiahou Tingan was very frustrated, and his face was filled with impatience. "What? This young master came to your little spring breeze house to have some fun. Do I need to look at your eyes? Listen to your orders?" He had heard enough at home. Scram! Just as he was about to make a move, a soft and sweet voice suddenly came from behind him. "Wait." Mrs. Zhang looked up and was taken aback. "Lua, why did you come out?" Shui Lu smiled gently. "I heard second young master Xiahou's voice from afar. Since second young master Xiahou wants to hear me, It's my honor. There's no reason for me to turn you away. As she spoke, she looked at Xiahou Tingan. Second young master, please. Xiahou Tingan was then satisfied as he gave Auntie Zhang a warning look. If you were half as sensible as Miss Lu, you'd be able to avoid a lot of trouble. Do you understand? Auntie Zhang didn't react as she looked at Shui Lu, in confusion and shock. Today was her usual day of rest. Not to mention a mere second young master of the Xiahou family, even if the emperor came, I wouldn't come out to welcome him. In the past, when Shui Lu first came, there were people who bullied her, and some even wanted to humiliate her. But those people all stopped in the end. In all kinds of ways. From then on, almost nobody dared to be so impudent in Xiling. Xiahou Tingan only dared to do this because he was drunk and muddle-headed. However, it wasn't that they couldn't handle it. They just didn't need Shui Lu to come out personally. But Shui Lu just smiled. Auntie Zhang, please invite second young master to the room over there. I'll pack up and come over. Auntie Zhang was confused, but she could only do as she was told. Xiahou Tingan strutted into the room. If he was more clear-headed, he would notice that something was amiss. It was a pity that he couldn't tell anything at this point. Instead, he thought that his identity had stunned them, and he was secretly delighted. After a while, Shui Lu indeed carried the pipa over. She gave Auntie Zhang a look. Auntie Zhang, second young master, has a distinguished identity. Please serve him the best wine we have. Auntie Zhang didn't know what she was planning, but she still did as she was told. Very quickly, the servants sent the wine over. Xiahou Tingan slapped it open, and the refreshing wine fragrance wafted over. It was the top-grade green bamboo leaf. Only Xiahou Tingan and Shui Lu were left in the room. Shui Lu asked very gently. Second young master, what do you want to hear? Xiahou Tingan thought for a while. Just pick what you're best at. As he spoke, he started drinking again. Shui Lu's eyes sparkled, and she smiled in agreement. Then she gently strummed the pipa, and a melancholic sound could be heard. Xiahou Tingan's emotions were stirred, and he was very upset as he continuously downed a few cups of wine. Shui stopped and knitted her brows as if she was worried. Second young master, you don't seem to be in a good mood. Is something troubling you? Xiahou Tingan's mind was a little giddy. When he heard this voice, he opened his mouth and said what was on his mind. It's all because of the Jianghu residents. Bang! He heavily slammed the wine cup on the table, and his face flushed red with anger. Shui Lu's eyelashes fluttered, and her voice was as gentle as the wind. I'm just a weak girl and I don't know much about this. I just hope that second young master can be more at ease and stop worrying about this. As if he heard a joke, Xiahou Tingan sneered. I don't want to either, but that Jianghu residence is too much. Who in Xiling City didn't know that Jiang Yuqing's biological sister, Jiang Yuji, was discussing marriage with Xiahou Tingan? The two families had a strong alliance, and this marriage was very beneficial to both parties. Especially Xiahou Tingan. Just based on this marriage, he had already won against the other young masters in the Xiahou residence. What else could he be unhappy about? Shui Lu only asked a few questions, but she managed to get a lot of information out of Xiahou Tingan. She then knew that because Jiang Yuqing was injured, the marriage between the Jiang residents and the Xiahou residents started to be delayed again. They even said that they wanted to wait until after the third princess and Jiang Yuqing's wedding. This made the Xiahou residents feel that the Jiang residents didn't care about this marriage at all. They had already given in time and time again so that they could settle this matter as soon as possible. However, the Jiang residents was insatiable. They actually still want the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. What a joke! Xiahou Tingan stuck out his tongue, and his voice was a little muffled. Since they already gave this to us back then, how can they ask for it back? They want to give the pill back to Jiang Yuqing? Dream on. Shui Lu was shocked. The 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. That's the princess's item. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 804. The 9 clouds yuan recovery pill was a 9th grade pill left behind by Taizu, and it was extremely precious. Rumors had it that this pill had the effect of raising one's yuan meridian level, so it had always been carefully kept by the Tianling royal family. There hadn't been a 9th-grade celestial physician in the Tianling dynasty for hundreds of years, so one could imagine how precious this 9th-grade pill was. Back then, when the princess was of marriageable age, the emperor gave this 9 clouds yuan recovery pill as a gift to her. Everyone knew that the emperor had decided to pass the throne to the empress concubine. Ever since then, the princess had been in charge of keeping this 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. On one hand, she had the Tianjing yuan meridian and didn't need this item. On the other hand, this 9 clouds yuan recovery pill had a special meaning, and the Tianling royal family wouldn't let anyone use it. Instead, it would be passed down. But now, Xiahou Tingan actually said that the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill was in their residence. Shui hurriedly looked down and hid the emotions in her eyes. Even if she was good at hiding her emotions, she almost couldn't control it at this moment. Even if Xiahou Chunan was completely drunk, she didn't dare to reveal any abnormalities. She took a deep breath in and paused for a moment before she finally suppressed the waves in her heart. At the same time, countless guesses surfaced in her mind. After the princess died, Jiang Yuqing and Shangguan Wan were in charge of everything. Everyone naturally thought that the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill was in Shangguan Wan's hands. As the princess's sudden death had a huge impact on everyone's attention was placed on the princess's death. Very few people cared about this 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. I didn't expect it to be in the Xiahou residence. Hearing what Xiahou Tingan said, this 9 clouds yuan recovery pill was originally given to them by Jiang Yuqing, but he wanted it back now. Both parties couldn't come to an agreement, so they had a conflict. Of course, Jiang Yuqing could have gotten this item. As for why he gave it to the Xiahou residence, only they knew. But this also confirmed what Shui Lu had always suspected and investigated. The Xiahou residence indeed couldn't escape from the princess's death. Now, for some reason, Jiang Yuqing wanted the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill back. Bang! Xiahou Tingan suddenly fell onto the table, and the wine on the table spilled all over the floor. He was still muttering something under his breath. Second young master? Second young master? Shui Lu shouted twice, but Xiahou Tingan didn't respond. The gentle smile on her face faded, and she quietly walked over. In her blurred state, she heard his intermittent words. "It's me, it's my 99. Shui Lu pondered. Seeing Xiahou Tingan's angry and indignant look, it was most likely because he had always thought that the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill was his. But now, Jiang Yuqing wanted to go back. Of course, he wouldn't agree. Shui Lu's voice was even softer, and it carried an indescribable allure. "Where is the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill?" Xiahou Tingan's eyes were tightly shut, and his face was flushed red. He reeked of alcohol. Hearing this, his eyebrows twitched and he shook his finger. Here. Creak. The door was opened from the inside. Nanny Zhang, who was anxiously waiting outside, hurriedly looked over. Seeing that Shui Lu walked out safely with her pipa, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. She quickly walked forward and sized up Shui Lu. Then she looked over Shui Lu's shoulder. "How is it? Are you okay?" Shui Lu smiled. "Second young master is drunk and has already fallen asleep. Don't let anyone come and disturb second young master." Nanny Zhang vaguely saw the corner of Xiahou Tingan's shirt. Hearing that there wasn't any movement inside, she felt more at ease. "Why don't we send someone to send him back to the Xiahou residence? With his current state, people will definitely talk about him if we send him back. He might even cause trouble for us. If he wants to sleep here, let him sleep." This kind of thing was very normal for the young masters in Xiling City. As long as they didn't go overboard, their families wouldn't pursue the matter too much. Should we find someone to help him wash up and rest? Nanny Zhang lightly fanned herself. The smell of alcohol in the room was simply unbearable. "We're still standing at the door. Who knows what it's like inside? It's really hard on Shui Lu. Call someone over." Shui looked back and tucked her hair behind her ear as she chuckled. "He's Xiahou Residence's second young master after all. His current state is too unbearable. We just have to serve him well today. Someone will naturally come to fetch him back tomorrow. Hearing her words, Nanny Zhang also felt that it made sense, so she nodded. Shui yawned and covered her mouth with her hand. Her pair of watery eyes were very moving and had a natural charm and gentleness. I'm tired today, so I'll go back first. The smell of alcohol on you is really strong. Shui Lu pouted her red lips lightly. I'll have to trouble Nanny Zhang for the rest. Then, she hugged her pipa and walked back to her room. Nanny Zhang glanced at her and felt strange. Shui Lu had always looked down on people like Xiahou Tingan, but she was exceptionally patient today. She even endured the fact that the room was already so dirty and messy. However, she didn't think too much about it as Shui Lu's temper had always been hard to predict. She endured the smell and closed the door before calling someone over to clean up. The next morning, Xiahou Tingan was woken up by a commotion. Vaguely, he seemed to have heard Jiang Yuji's voice. He sat up with much difficulty, but his head hurt so much that it felt like it was going to split open. At this point, the door was suddenly kicked open by someone. Xiahou Tingan, come out. A person barged in with a face full of anger. It was Jiang Yuji. Digression, 6 o'clock. I want to add 20 more. Can you hear me singing? Dreams flew out one by one. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 805. Nanny Zhang and the rest hurriedly followed over. Looking at the scene in front of them, they didn't know whether to stay or leave, so they anxiously said to Xiahou Tingan. Second young master, why you see, fourth Missy Jiang insisted on coming in. We couldn't stop her even if we wanted to. Xiahou Tingan rubbed his temples. His mind was still in a mess, and he didn't understand the situation in front of him. Yuji, why are you here? Jiang Yuji was so angry that her entire body trembled. Her originally pretty face was already a little distorted. She raised her hand and angrily pointed at Xiahou Tingan with a sharp voice. You still have the cheek to ask me why I'm here? Why don't you see what good things you've done? Xiahou Tingan, do you still have any shame? With Jiang Yuji's commotion, Xiahou Tingan instantly felt very embarrassed. Normally, he would let her do whatever she wanted in private. When she threw a tantrum, he would also tolerate it. However, she spoke to him in such a tone in public. She didn't leave him any face at all. Xiahou Tingan had a hangover and was originally feeling uncomfortable. This made him even more frustrated, and his face turned cold. What are you doing? Don't you see where this is? Is this a place you can come to? No matter what, Jiang Yuji is the Jiang family's fourth Missy. With such a status, she came to Chunfeng restaurant and acted so arrogantly. She doesn't even mind that it's embarrassing. I can't come? Am I delaying your happiness? Jiang Yuji seemed to have completely lost her rationality as she sharply argued with him. Her eyes were red, and she looked furious. She gritted her teeth as she spoke every word. Xiahou Tingan closed his eyes and looked at the door. In just a short while, quite a few people had already surrounded the door, and they were all watching this joke. He forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Yuji, calm down. Yuji, calm down first, let's close the door and have a good talk. He was begging nicely, but Jiang Yuji sneered as if she had heard a joke. Close the door? Why don't I close the door and let you continue being a playboy? Xiahou Tingan knitted his brows. What nonsense are you spouting? Before he could finish his sentence, a soft hand placed on his shoulder. A weak girl's voice came from behind him. Second young master. Xiahou Tingan's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately turned around. A girl who looked to be about 15 or 16 years old was leaning against the wall while hugging a blanket. She clutched the blanket tightly with one hand to cover her body, while her other hand carefully rested on his shoulder. Her fair and tender arms were like jade lotus roots, and there were a few vague red marks on her slender collarbone. It went without saying what it was. Xiahou Tingan was stunned. He almost jumped out of bed. Who are you? The woman's hair was disheveled, but one could still tell that she was extremely beautiful. Her skin was snow white, and her lips were cherry red. Especially her pair of round eyes, with long eyelashes fluttering slightly. She was truly a pitiful sight. Especially since there were still traces of tears at the corners of her eyes, it made people feel even more reluctant to say a harsh word to her. Hearing this, her eyes widened slightly, as if she couldn't believe it. Her body trembled slightly, and 2 lines of tears flowed down her beautiful face. Second young master, yesterday I just wanted to help you wash up and let you have a good rest, but you grabbed my hand and didn't let go, and then… She bit her lips and looked as if she was about to die from embarrassment. She lowered her head and didn't say anything, but she kept crying. But even if she didn't say anything, the crowd could roughly guess what had happened. Looking at this woman's pitiful look, Xiahou Tingan's reprimand was instantly stuck in his throat, and he couldn't say anything. His heart was already in a mess. No wonder Jianghu had such a reaction when she came in. No wonder her words were so harsh. I thought I was just hungover at Chunfeng restaurant, but it turned out to be, but I don't remember anything. Xiahou Tingan turned around anxiously and looked at Jianghu. Yuji, listen to me. It's not what you think it is. Jianghu only looked at him and the woman on the bed with resentment. What am I thinking about? Isn't the truth right in front of me? Do I still need to think about it? Xiahou Tingan, we haven't even gotten married. How dare you do such a thing outside? You've really disappointed me. The reason why Jianghu liked Xiahou Tingan was largely because he was gentle, restrained, and well-mannered. He wasn't like those playboys in Xiling City who were ignorant and incompetent. But now, this incident will spread throughout the entire Xiling City very quickly. Seeing Jianghu's agitated look, Xiahou Tingan knew that she was furious. He hurriedly put on his clothes and walked over. Yuji, listen to me properly explain, peck. His hand had just touched Jianghu's hand when she harshly slapped it away. Don't dirty my hands. Jianghu's face flushed red, and her voice was sharp as she said every word clearly. Xiahou Tingan, Mi Jiang Residence's reputation has been implicated by you. If you like to do this, just do it. This marriage is cancelled. Xiahou Tingan's face burned as if he had been harshly slapped twice in public. If it were any other time, he could tolerate whatever Jianghu threw at him. It didn't matter if he admitted his mistake or begged for mercy. As long as he could coax her, he could do anything. But Jianghu saying this in front of so many people was undoubtedly tearing off his face and harshly trampling on it. Is she using the marriage to threaten me? The hatred and anger that had accumulated in Xiahou Tingan's heart for a long time instantly exploded. His face rapidly turned cold, and he blurted out without thinking. So be it. Do you really think I can't do without you? I've long had enough of you. With this angry shout, the entire room instantly fell silent. Jianghu was dazed, and her face instantly turned pale. She only wanted to vent the anger in her heart, and she only said the cancellation of the marriage out of impulse. This was because she knew that Xiahou Tingan was most afraid of her saying this. Originally, she just wanted to scare him, but she didn't expect him to directly agree. Also, what else did he say? At that moment, something in Jianghu's heart suddenly collapsed. Her body swayed and she almost fell to the ground. Someone supported her from behind and gently said, "Fourth Mississippi, Fourth Miss, are you all right?" Jianghu turned around in a daze and saw a beautiful face. It was Shui Luhu. Jianghu immediately pushed her away in disgust. Nobody in Chunfeng restaurant is good. They're all cheap and flirtatious. Shui didn't seem to care as she smiled and looked at Xiahou Tingan. Second young master, it seems like you haven't sobered up from yesterday. Don't you know that the truth after drinking is the most hurtful? Jianghu instantly felt like she was stabbed by a knife. Truth after drinking. Xiahou Tingan is saying all of this from the bottom of his heart? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 806. Many pairs of eyes were watching them from outside the door. Jianghu felt as if there was a dagger at her back, and she had never felt so embarrassed before. She glared at Xiahou Tingan with bloodshot eyes, and every word seemed to be squeezed out with her teeth clenched. Xiahou Tingan, you said it yourself. Don't regret it in the future. Then, she turned around and ran outside. The crowd hurriedly moved aside. Jiang Yuji's figure quickly disappeared from Chun Feng restaurant. The crowd didn't speak for a long time. Shui Luer's lips curved up undetectably. Things are progressing more smoothly than I expected. I just sent a message to Jiang Yuji to lure her over. I originally wanted them to kick up a fuss and talk about the 9 Clouds Yuan recovery pill. I didn't expect them to directly say that they want to cancel the engagement. This time, the Xiahou residents really did not have the slightest bit of justification. If they still want to marry the Jiang residents, they have no other choice but to take out the 9 Clouds Yuan recovery pill. This is more convenient. Shui Luer turned around and looked at Xiahou Tingan. He was standing at the same spot, and his face was pale. His expression looked very complicated. Drinking this wine was really worth it. Second young master, 4th Missy Jiang seems very sad. You should quickly chase after her. Shui Luer advised him considerately. The worry that just appeared in Xiahou Tingan's heart instantly disappeared. He coldly chided. She can leave if she wants to. What does it have to do with me? Shui Luer's expression changed slightly, and she smiled. Whatever you say is naturally what it is. Then we'll take our leave first. If you have any instructions, feel free to tell us. Then she turned around and smiled at the crowd. You can all leave. The crowd then left to busy themselves with their own matters. However, who wouldn't treat such a huge incident as a topic of conversation after bumping into it? Not long later, this good show at Chun Feng restaurant would spread throughout the entire Xiling city. Shui Luer waved at the girl in the room. Xiao Dai, come over. The girl called Xiao Dai bit her lips and silently picked up her clothes to wear. When she walked to Xiahou Tingan's side, she bowed and looked down. Today's matter was caused by Little Butterfly. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Xiahou Tingan originally knew that this matter was mainly his fault, and he couldn't blame the young lady. Hearing her say this, his heart ached even more. Xiao Dai continued, Second young master and 4th young mistress Jiang are a match made in heaven. If there is any animosity between the two of you because of Xiao Dai really can't bear it. Xiao Dai is willing to go to the Jiang mansion to ask for forgiveness. As long as I can beg for 4th young mistress Jiang's forgiveness, Xiao Dai will do anything. Xiahou Tingan didn't feel good when he saw how she was willing to compromise for the greater good. When he thought of Jiang Yuji's arrogant and domineering vixen, he was filled with anger. They weren't even married yet. If they got married, who knew how much trouble they would cause in the future? Why are you going to the Jiang mansion? Just stay here and wait. Xiahou Tingan thought for a moment and took out a cosmic ring. From today onwards, you will follow me. However, you probably won't be able to enter the Xiahou residence. I will order someone to find a small residence and you will live there in the future. Xiao Dai seemed to be overwhelmed by the favor as she immediately knelt down and said that she didn't dare to. However, Xiahou Tingan was very insistent as he threw the cosmic ring down and left. I want to go back and explain this to my father. I'm not going to get married to her. After Xiahou Tingan left, Shui Luer then went forward to help Xiao Dai up and smiled. Xiao Dai, it's been hard on you. Xiao Dai stood up, and her eyes were clear and determined. Where was the previous gentleness in her eyes? Ms. Luer, don't worry. Xiahou Tingan didn't take advantage of me. She didn't want to suffer like this. Shui Luer smiled. Of course I'm aware of your capabilities. However, I'll have to trouble you in the future. Xiao Dai said firmly. For your highness, I won't hesitate to go through fire and water. As expected, the commotion at Chun Feng restaurant quickly spread throughout the entire Xiling. When Xiahou Tingan returned to the residence, he realized that the atmosphere wasn't right. All the servants looked at him with fear and trepidation. Their expressions were strange. At this point, Xiahou Tingan knew that the news must have spread. He didn't need to think to know what was waiting for him. However, he had already made up his mind to never lower his head to the Jiang residence again. Even if Jiang Yuji was willing to continue with this marriage, he wasn't willing to. You still dare to come back? Xiahou Tingan hadn't even walked a distance when he saw Xiahou Rong angrily walking over. His heart skipped a beat, and he immediately explained. Father, listen to me, Pack? Xiahou Rong harshly slapped him. Xiahou Tingan stumbled and directly fell to the ground. You're trying to anger me to death. Xiahou Rong's face was green, and his chest heaved up and down violently. This unfilial son. He then grabbed Xiahou Tingan's collar and dragged him into the study. Xiahou Tingan wanted to say something, but his collar was tightly grabbed, so he couldn't say a single word. He had difficulty breathing, and his face flushed red. Bang! Xiahou Rong threw him to the ground. Xiahou Tingan fell so hard that his bones were about to crack. Father, you're too disappointing. Xiahou Rong was so angry that his fingers trembled as he pointed at his nose and scolded. Do you know that you gave the 9 clouds Yuan recovery pill to someone else this time? Why do I have such a useless son like you? Mystic Forest. Time passed day by day. There was still no movement in the forest. That day, when Chang Wanzhou said that Chu Luiwei was about to come out, the group of people was elated. In the end, they waited for a long time, but she still didn't come out. The few of them could only continue waiting. However, Mu Hongyu and the other 2 didn't forget to cultivate during this period of waiting. With Qin Yi and Lei Laoxi's patient guidance, they all had some breakthroughs. Especially Chang Wanzhou, his improvement was the most obvious. Qin Yi originally wanted to take a look at the seal in his body, but it didn't appear again after that day. Even though he felt a little regretful, Qin Yi didn't insist on taking a look at Chang Wanzhou. It's not too late to talk about this when Her Highness comes out. After all, Chang Wanzhou listens to me. After everything here was settled, it wasn't impossible to solve these problems bit by bit. At night, the blue-black night sky was deep and quiet, and a round moon hung high in the sky. Gradually, that moon was dyed with a tinge of red. In the red moon desert, rustling sounds could be heard. I've finally waited until now. If I don't see Lass again, I'm afraid I'll be much older. Lan Zhao's voice was still ethereal and pleasant. Let's hurry and leave. Diwu, where's Big Bao? I didn't see her either. She was just here. Lan Zhao suddenly thought of something and secretly cursed. He's gone ahead of us. This damn child. Underground. In front of Chu Luiwei, the bloodline power in half of the skeleton was almost completely refined and condensed into a blood pearl. The legendary three-eyed eagle's body was almost half reconstructed. Chu Luiwei stared intently, and her heart seemed to be tightly clenched by something. Just as she was about to continue, she suddenly heard a baby-like voice. Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat. It's that voice again. She immediately looked up. Digression. Mobile users, please browse and read at 12 a.m. tomorrow. A better reading experience comes from AI Network. Chapter 807. A boy who looked like he was 4 or 5 years old appeared in front of her. Chu Luiwei was stunned for a moment. Was it this child who shouted just now? But what did he shout? Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows slightly. She vaguely sensed that something was wrong. While she was in a daze, the little boy had already flown down and landed lightly and silently not far away from her. Chu Luiwei was shocked. This little boy's aura was extremely obscure. He seemed to be very powerful. She sized him up carefully and cautiously. He was small and wore a blue robe. He had black hair and black eyes. He looked to be no more than 5 years old. His small face was cute and round, making people want to reach out and pinch it. But that gaze did not seem like a child's. It was cold and majestic. Just by looking at it, one would be able to feel its extraordinary aura. Chu Luiwei was surprised. Since when did De Huang Swamp have such a person? But what made her feel even more strange was the way this little boy looked at her. It was very strange. Although he was very restrained, there was an unconcealable joy in the depths of his eyes. This made his cold little face look a little gentler. Why did he look as if he knew her? Chu Luiwei thought silently. On the other hand, Duga Mabao looked at Chu Luiwei in front of him and carefully sized up her current appearance. He had mixed feelings. It was a lie to say that he did not miss her. It was also a lie to say that he wanted to teach her a lesson. In these few years, they had waited day and night and imagined countless scenes of their reunion. They also thought that she might have changed after such a long time. But who would have thought that even his entire physical body would be completely changed? This face was no longer the face in their memories. But the expression between her eyebrows was extremely similar. "Debeo! You shameless person! You!" At this moment, an exasperated old voice sounded. Chu Luiwei only felt something flash in front of her. Then, there was another person beside the little boy. It was an old man. He was wearing a white robe. His hair was also white, but he looked hale and hearty. He had the aura of an immortal. Unfortunately, the moment he opened his mouth, the immortal aura on him disappeared instantly. Diwu Zhangze was about to scold again when he saw Dugumabao looking ahead. The corner of his mouth twitched. He raised his head stiffly and found Yu-er standing not far in front of him. She was looking at them at this moment. How shameful! Diwu Zhangze was annoyed. He was so focused on scolding Dugumabao that he almost forgot that the girl was here. He clenched his fist and coughed violently. "Oh, don't mind us." Chu Luiwei blinked. Why did it seem that this old man also knew her? Judging from their tone, they seemed quite close. Chu Luiwei opened her mouth. What are you arguing? Don't you see that Yu-er is busy? An ethereal and pleasant voice came. Chu Luiwei looked up again. She saw a young man floating down from above. He was wearing a blue brocade robe, a white jade belt around his waist, and a blue jade crown on his head. From top to bottom, he was very clean and elegant. What an elegant young master. Chu Luiwei looked at his face, her eyes flashing slightly. This was a beautiful face that was hard to distinguish between a man and a woman. His facial features were exquisite and perfect. The contours of his cheeks were also very smooth, unlike the sharp edges of ordinary men. This added a bit of youthfulness to him. The most moving part was that pair of amber eyes. They were clean and clear, sparkling and translucent like the morning dew. Chu Luiwei had only seen two men who could be described as beautiful so far. One was Chang Wanzhou, and the other was the man in front of her. They both had exquisite and perfect looks, but the feeling they gave people was completely different. If Chang Wanzhou was said to be a beautiful rose with thorns, then this man was like a transparent and fragile glass. His thin lips curved slightly, and he walked over with a smile. His every move carried a high and mighty air of nobility. It was as if this wasn't a dark and cramped cave, but a magnificent hall. He walked to the side of the two and stood still, looking at Chu Luiwei with a smile. "Girl, long time no see. You've become more beautiful." Dugumabao glanced at him coldly and spat out a sentence mercilessly. "What are you talking about? Why don't you take a look at where this is? It's not like this is his incomparably shabby palace." Lan Xiao didn't think much of it. "Why do you care? As the only handsome man here, if I don't work hard, can I still count on you guys?" They were just jealous of him. Diwu Zhangze rubbed his face. After so many years, he thought that he had already trained his old face. He didn't expect that he would still be defeated by Lan Xiao. How did he do it? Every time he came out to meet people, he would embarrass everyone? Dugumabao couldn't be bothered with him anymore. A damn pervert will always be a damn pervert. He can't change at all. Chu Luiwei looked at the people in front of her with a blank expression. These three people had really different personalities. Although they looked like a child, a young man, and an old man, from their conversation, it seemed like there was no difference in seniority between them. This wasn't particularly strange. There were thousands of techniques in the world, and the cultivators' aptitudes were also different. After cultivating to a certain level, the appearance one would maintain would naturally be different. However, it was obvious that these people didn't have any ill intentions towards her. This made Chu Luiwei feel a little more at ease. However, she thought for a long time, but she really couldn't remember seeing these people before. If she had seen such distinctive people before, she definitely wouldn't have forgotten them. Chu Luiwei guessed in her heart. Perhaps they had mistaken her for someone else? Rong Xiu, who was at the side, stopped what he was doing when they appeared one after another. He took a step back and leaned lazily against the mountain wall. He crossed his arms and looked at the scene in front of him lazily. Although he felt that it wasn't very appropriate to meet them now, this was De Huang Swamp after all, and it was also their territory. He might not be able to stop them from doing whatever they wanted. Rather than suddenly bumping into Chu Luiyue somewhere and causing all sorts of trouble, it was better to meet them directly now. At least he was here. Seeing the three of them quarreling with each other, Chu Luiyue was a little confused. They seemed to be here for her, but she didn't even know their identities now. Thinking of this, her red lips curled up slightly, and she revealed a polite smile. I'm Chu Luiyue. Greetings, seniors. Although it looked a little strange, the three of them were very strong. It was right to call them seniors. Chu Luiyue was thinking this when she suddenly saw the three of them looking over. Their gazes were very strange, as if they had seen something inconceivable. Dugu Mabao frowned and asked, "What did you call us?" "What did you call us?" You can get a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 808. Could it be that even Senior couldn't do it? Chu Luiyue found it strange. Just as she was about to speak, she realized that their expressions were all very strange. Her heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly realized something. Both parties fell into a short silence. Dugu Mabao and the rest then realized that the girl in front of them seemed to be looking at them differently from before. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. Diwu Zhangzi couldn't help but say, "Girl, this is..." Something seemed wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. After a moment, Dugu Mabao spoke again. He stared at Chu Luiyue, pointed at himself, and asked word by word, "Who am I?" Once his voice fell, the surroundings were silent. Lan Xiao and Diwu Zhangzi's expressions also became serious. They realized that things seemed to be different from what they had expected. Chu Luiyue's heart seemed to be gripped by something, and it tightened bit by bit. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt dry. After a while, she shook her head. "I'm sorry, I've never seen you before, so I don't know your identities. If I've offended you, please forgive me." In an instant, the surrounding space seemed to freeze. Chu Luiyue even sensed the fierce aura that suddenly erupted from the other party's body. That little boy's face instantly seemed to be covered with a layer of frost, and it was extremely cold. The ground under his feet actually cracked instantly. Deep cracks spread out from under his feet. Although Chu Luiyue had already expected that these people were extremely strong, she still couldn't hide her shock when she saw this scene. He was just angry, and he already had such a suppressive aura. If he really attacked, she didn't know how strong he would be. "Big Bao!" Lan Xiao reacted extremely quickly and immediately called out to him. Dugu Mabao's gaze flickered, and he took a deep breath before retracting his aura. However, the expression on his little face was still so cold that it could freeze people to death. This time, Lan Xiao didn't tease him. According to Big Bao's personality, it was already good enough that he didn't destroy this place after hearing this. The reason he could tolerate it was most likely because the girl was busy with serious matters. No matter what, De Bao treated the girl well. Lan Xiao sighed and looked at Chu Luiyue with a complicated gaze. "Girl, do you really not remember us?" Seeing them like this, Chu Luiyue felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. Originally, they all came here happily, but because of what she said just now, seeing their eyes that were originally filled with anticipation turn dim and disappointed, she actually felt bad in her heart. For a moment, she even wished that she could recognize them. This thought flashed through his mind, but it gave Chu Luiyue a shock. She was not a kind person and should not have such feelings towards strangers. Did she really know them in the past? Then, half of the black shadow surrounded it. Chu Luiyue's mind moved, and the blood bead flew over as well. On the bone, muscles and flesh started to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wings on the other side were also gradually taking shape. Chu Luiyue did not dare to relax and continued to watch it closely. No one knew what would happen until the last moment. For this day, she and the legendary three-eyed eagle had waited for too long and suffered too much. If they failed, all their previous efforts would be wasted. So, They could only succeed. Seeing that Chu Luiyue had started to work, Dugu Mabao's expression changed, but he did not say anything to disturb her. Actually, Chu Luiyue did not need to answer. He already knew the answer. Then he looked at Rong Xiu, who was leaning against the stone wall. Only then did he realize that he was still wearing a mask. What was he trying to hide? According to his relationship with you, there was really no need for him to do so. Unless had forgotten about him. Thinking of this, Dugu Mabao's expression changed slightly. What had happened in these few years? This girl clearly remembered her identity, but she had forgotten so many of them. He stared at Rong Xiu. I have something to ask you. Oh, I have something to ask you. Chapter 809. Rong Xiu turned his gaze slightly and glanced at Chu Luiyue. He waved his sleeves, and the barrier outside Chu Luiyue glowed faintly. He smiled slightly and said, "She's busy now. It's better not to disturb her." Dugu Mabao frowned even more. Obviously, Rong Xiu deliberately used the barrier to seal it because he didn't want the girl to hear their conversation. On the one hand, it was to not disturb her. On the other hand, he really didn't want her to know anything. What was he thinking? Dugu Mabao went straight to the point. She doesn't remember us now, and she has forgotten you, right? Lan Xiao and Diwu Zhangze also looked over. Rong Xiu nodded calmly. This point couldn't be clearer now. Seeing Rong Xiu admit it so easily, Dugu Mabao and the others were a little surprised. Lan Xiao touched his chin. She actually forgot about you too. Oh, my mood seems to have suddenly improved a little. They were originally very sad, but since Rong Xiu was the same as them, there was nothing much to say. Diwu Zhangze nodded in agreement, which was rare. Me too. Dugu Mabao's face was a little dark. Can't the two of you work harder? How can you compare to him? They've all been forgotten. How can they compare who has been forgotten more thoroughly? Besides, Rong Xiu was Rong Xiu and they were them. To the girl, there was no distinction between importance and importance. At least for him, forget Rong Xiu? Forget them? Diwu Zhangze rubbed the space between his eyebrows. This was the bad thing about Debao. He often couldn't recognize his own identity. He often felt that he was the most important person to the girl. In fact, he was only one of them. Lan Xiao couldn't be bothered to argue with Debao. He continued, then how many things has she forgotten? If she forgets too many things, it'll be troublesome. Rong Xiu paused. She doesn't remember anything outside of the Tianling dynasty. Their expressions stiffened. What did you say? Lan Xiao was in disbelief. Completely forgotten. Rong Xiu smiled and glanced sideways at Chu Luiyue. A trace of gentleness appeared in the depths of his eyes. She remembers herself. Also, she still remembered who she loved. The West Hill. The Jianghu mansion. The atmosphere in the entire residence was cold and heavy. Everyone was doing things cautiously, not daring to say half a word. They were afraid that if they said or did something wrong, they would offend their superiors and bring trouble to themselves. First, it was eldest young master who was injured. Then, Xiahou Tingan flirted outside, which angered fourth Missy. Bad things happened one after another in the Jianghu mansion. Now, everyone in Xiling knew that Jiang Yuji had barged into Chun Feng restaurant and caught Xiahou Tingan in bed. She even caused a huge scene and threatened to cancel the engagement between the two parties. The Jiang family and the Xiahou family's faces were all lost together. All the servants in the Jiang mansion served Jiang Yuji with fear and trepidation. Jiang Yuqing naturally heard about this as well. After Jiang Yuji came back, she only said that she wanted to cancel the engagement with Xiahou Tingan. Then she locked herself in her room and smashed everything in the room, but she refused to come out. Jiang Yuqing knew her too well, so he purposely waited for a day before coming to find her. When he reached Jiang Yuji's courtyard, he directly dismissed the servants and went up to knock on the door. "Yuji, it's me." There was no movement in the room. Jiang Yuqing waited for a while and said, "I know you're wronged. Big brother knows that you have been wronged. This time, I came to help you vent your anger. You really don't want me to go in?" Then, Jiang Yuqing waited patiently. As expected, Jiang Yuji walked over to open the door after a while. It had only been a day, but she looked much more haggard and haggard. Her hair was messy, and her eyes were red and swollen. She didn't look like a pampered lady at all. Jiang Yuqing's heart ached when he saw his sister in such a sad state. Yuji, brother, how do you plan to help me? Jiang Yuji looked at him fixedly, and her eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Let's go in and talk. Jiang Yuqing walked in. Jiang Yuji didn't stop him and turned to walk in. After closing the door, Jiang Yuqing then saw the mess in the room, and there was almost no space to walk. He knitted his brows. He knew that his sister liked Xiahou Tingan. Even though she was usually pampered and willful, there was nothing to say about Xiahou Tingan. If not, he wouldn't have agreed to discuss this marriage. After all, Xiahou Tingan wasn't the most outstanding person in the Xiahou family. Yuji, Xiahou Tingan let you down this time. Don't worry, I won't let you suffer for nothing. Jiang Yuqing's voice was as calm as usual, but it had a hint of murderous intent. Since he dared to let you down, he naturally has to have the guts to bear the consequences. Jiang Yuji was dazed. Brother, what do you plan to do? Jiang Yuqing lightly caressed her hair. Originally, I liked the Xiahou family's third young master. He's much better than Xiahou Tingan in all aspects. But because you like Xiahou Tingan, you decided to marry him. In Xiling, it's a blessing for anyone who can marry you. Since Xiahou Tingan doesn't know what's good for him, it's better to cancel the marriage agreement. Seeing that Jiang Yuji seemed to be hesitating, he thought for a while and said, if you can't bear it, let him live and turn him into a useless person. Jiang Yuji couldn't help but grab his sleeve. No, I can't, brother. I just said it in a fit of anger that day. Jiang Yuqing knitted his brows. He treated you so well, but you still won't give up? Do you really want to marry him? Jiang Yuji's tears flowed down in despair and pain. Brother, I don't want to do this either, but I just can't bear to. She regretted saying it that day, but every time she thought of the scene, she felt terrible. All these years, I've only liked Xiahou Tingan. If I didn't fall for him, I wouldn't be so sad. Jiang Yuqing coldly said, no buts. He's not worth it. I can take this chance to get the 9 Clouds Yuan recovery pill back, but the person I'm going to marry must be changed. Jiang Yuji sobbed. But how can you control your feelings? Even brother knows that the princess doesn't like you, but you still got engaged to her, right? Digression. Mobile users at 6 p.m., please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 8:10. Jiang Yuqing's expression instantly changed. He stared at Jiang Yuji with an intimidating gaze, and his expression was as dark as water. Jiang Yuji also realized that she had misspoken, and her heart sank. Big brother, that's not what I meant. Where did you find out about all this? Jiang Yuqing grabbed Jiang Yuji's wrist and asked word by word. Jiang Yuji had never seen her big brother look at her like this before, let alone speak to her in such a tone. She was so scared. Big brother, let go of my hand first. It hurts. She panicked and wanted to pry Jiang Yuqing's hand away. However, Jiang Yuqing's hand was still clamped tightly on hers, and he didn't let go at all. Let me ask you, how did you find out about all this? Jiang Yuqing raised his voice. His tone was very stern, as if he was interrogating her. Everyone said that the two of them were a match made in heaven and had an extremely good relationship. Countless people in the entire Tianling dynasty were filled with envy and jealousy toward him. It was all because of the engagement between him and her. However, only he and Shang Guanyu knew the inside story of this matter. Now that Shang Guanyu was dead, no one else knew about it. When did Jiang Yuji find out about it? Only then did Jiang Yuji realize the seriousness of the matter. Looking at her big brother's frighteningly fierce expression, a deep fear arose in her heart. She hurriedly said, I heard it by accident. That day, I went to Thousand View Garden to look for you. In the end, I happened to see you talking to the crown princess. I only heard a little. Jiang Yuqing knew which day she was talking about. What else? What else did you hear? What else do you know? Jiang Yuqing didn't relax at all. It was as if he was interrogating a criminal. No, no more. Really no more. Big brother, my hand hurts. Jiang Yuji said repeatedly. Her face was a little pale from the pain, and her eyes were filled with panic. Jiang Yuqing stared at her for a long time. After confirming that she wasn't lying, he finally shook her hand off. Jiang Yuji staggered a step before stabilizing herself with great difficulty. He lowered his head and saw that his wrist was already bruised. She felt even more wronged. All these years, no matter what she said or did, Big Brother had never treated her this way. Now, she had only mentioned the Empress concubine and Jiang Yuji was angry and aggrieved, but she knew that she had touched her brother's reverse scale. No matter what, she couldn't say anything more. This is not something you should know. Jiang Yuqing said coldly. In the future, don't let me hear it a second time, understand? Jiang Yuji's body trembled slightly. She quickly nodded, but she didn't even dare to look at Jiang Yuqing. Big Brother was too scary just now. Jiang Yuqing closed his eyes and calmed the waves in his heart. He glanced at Jiang Yuji and saw the wound on her wrist, as well as her cowering appearance. He frowned. Just now, he had lost control of himself and probably scared her. Jiang Yuqing frowned. As for the matter between you and Xiahou Tingan, have you thought it through? Jiang Yuji paused in her actions and nodded hesitantly, but her eyes were filled with hatred. But I must kill that B*teach from Chun Feng restaurant. Jiang Yuqing chuckled. Do you know that woman has already redeemed herself from Chun Feng restaurant and found another house in the city to stay in? What? Jiang Yuji widened her eyes in shock. Almost instantly she understood what was going on. Xiahou Tingan is really going to have a woman outside. He really doesn't care about me at all. To think that I kept consoling myself for the entire day that it was all that B*teach's fault, and that Xiahou Tingan only did this because he was drunk and muddle-headed. Who knew that he would do such a thing in the blink of an eye? This is a slap to my face. He wants me to become the laughingstock of the entire Xiling city. Jiang Yuji's fingernails dug deeply into her palms. Was it all fake that he treated me so well in the past? In comparison, what I said just now is simply a joke. She walked out of the door. Where are you going? Jiang Yuqing stopped her. Jiang Yuji looked furious. I'm going to teach that adulterous pair a lesson. I'll make them wish they were dead. Jiang Yuqing continued asking. Then, do you still miss him? Do you still want to marry him? Jiang Yuji's chest seemed to be pressed by a huge rock. She shook her head hard and her eyes were red, but there were no more tears. That's good. Jiang Yuqing then nodded in satisfaction. I forgot to tell you something. Yesterday night, Xiahou Tingan was chased out of the residence by Xiahou Rong. It turned out that after Xiahou Tingan returned to the residence, he was taught a lesson by Xiahou Rong. Xiahou Rong requested for Xiahou Tingan to come to the Jiang residence to admit his mistake and beg for Jiang Yuji's forgiveness. However, Xiahou Tingan was determined to cancel this marriage. He was very stubborn and wouldn't agree to anything. In the end, Xiahou Rong couldn't take it anymore and chased him out in a fit of rage. He originally wanted to use this to scare Xiahou Tingan, but he didn't expect him to be so stubborn for once and leave the Xiahou residence in the middle of the night. I've already sent someone to find out. He's staying with that girl now. Jiang Yuqing's sentence was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Xiahou Tingan would rather be chased out and stay with that lowly girl from Chun Feng restaurant than beg for her forgiveness. What does this mean? Could it be that I, the Jiang family's fourth Missy, am inferior to a prostitute? From today onwards, I don't know what the people in Xiling City will say about me. Jiang Yuji only felt her face burning, and her mind was blank. Only endless hatred surged up. Then her eyes rolled and she directly fainted. Jiang Yuqing supported her and carried her to the bed. Then he ordered someone to tidy up and invited Feng Shanyuan over to take Jiang Yuji's pulse. After confirming that she only fainted because of anger and that there wasn't anything serious, Jiang Yuqing felt much more at ease. Then, he sat by the bed and personally took care of Jianghu. When Jianghu woke up, it was already evening. She opened her eyes in a daze and saw Jianghu, who was guarding by the bedside. Yuji, you're awake? Jianghu's voice returned to its usual gentleness. Jianghu's grievances exploded, and her eyes turned red. Okay, let the past be the past. Jianghu lightly patted her hand. When she was almost done venting, he fed her water. Finally, when Jianghu calmed down, he said softly, Brother Jiang, don't worry. What do you think of the Xiahou residence's third young master? Jianghu knew what he meant. She hesitated. Brother, I don't want to go to Xiahou residence anymore. Halfway through her sentence, she saw Jianghu nonchalantly glancing at her. She suddenly paused and nodded stiffly. Okay. Jianghu looked comforted. This time, the Xiahou residence must give me the 9 Clouds Yuan recovery pill. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 8:11. Xiahou Tingan and Jianghu's marriage fell through just like that. After the commotion at Chunfeng restaurant, Xiahou Tingan was chased out of the residence, and Jianghu was engaged to the Xiahou family's third young master, Xiahou Yushu. The development of this matter exceeded everyone's expectations, and it directly stunned the people in Xiling City who were waiting to see the two families make a fool of themselves. Strange. Why is the Jiang family and the Xiahou family still having a marriage alliance after such a thing happened? If it were an ordinary family, they might not even interact with each other anymore. Even if these two families are the top nobles and have to consider many factors when doing things, it shouldn't be to this extent, right? Is Jianghu set her mind on the Xiahou family? Or is the Xiahou family clinging onto Jianghu? Outsiders had no way of knowing, and they only talked about it heatedly after meals. But no matter who talked about it, they knew that Xiahou Tingan was the one who suffered the most. Jianghu was Jianghu's biological sister. Who didn't want to be related to them? Even the Xiahou family was no exception. Xiahou Rong was the grand tutor, and logically speaking, he didn't need to care too much about this. But now that His Majesty had been in a coma for close to 2 years, almost all the power was in the hands of Shangguan and Jianghu. Among the younger generation in the Xiahou family, there weren't any outstanding cultivation talents. They naturally needed to have a good relationship with the Jiang family. A marriage alliance was the best. Previously, Xiahou Tingan and Jianghu had always been together, so everyone thought that good things were about to happen. Hence, everyone was more polite to the Xiahou family. Xiahou Tingan's status also rose along with it. In the end, Xiahou Tingan was chased out of the Xiahou family overnight, and the unknown third young master Xiahou replaced him. What other benefits can I, Xiahou Tingan, get? Everyone thought that Xiahou Tingan was crazy. Second young master. In a mansion in Xiling City, Xiahou Tingan lay on the bed in the room. His face and body were covered in wounds, and his originally handsome face was almost swollen. Xiao Dai walked in with a tray. There were a few jade bottles, gauze, and other things on the tray. Second young master, let me help you change your bandages. Xiao Dai sat down by the bed, and her delicate face slightly knitted her thin brows as if she was very worried about him. Xiahou Tingan originally didn't want anyone to see him like this, but he really needed someone to take care of him. He held Xiao Dai's hand and sighed. Xiao Dai, I can see it clearly now. Only you treat me with sincerity. After he was chased out of the Xiahou residence, he had nowhere to go. He had planned to stay at a few friends' houses, but none of them opened the door for him. Xiao Dai took half a step back timidly and hesitantly said, It seems to be the day after you left the Xiahou family. It seems to be the day after you left the estate. Moreover, there are rumors outside that the Xiahou estate offered a very generous betrothal gift as an apology. Xiahou Tingan's brows twitched harshly. 9 Clouds Yuan recovery pill. They still plan to return this thing. Xiahou Tingan was filled with hatred. I originally planned to leave that thing for myself to use. All along, my cultivation talent was very average. Because of this, The Xiahou family was very unhappy with me both openly and secretly. He had waited for so long and endured so many grievances, all for the sake of this 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. But now, it's all gone. He lifted the blanket and was about to get up and walk out. But after taking 2 steps, his legs turned to jelly, and he fell down. Xiao Dai hurriedly went to help him. "Second young master, you didn't move aside." Xiahou Tingan pushed her away. Then, he forced himself to stand up and limped out of the room. "I want to take back the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. It's mine. Nobody can snatch it from me." Behind him, Xiao Dai looked at Xiahou Tingan's back view and smiled undetectably. The undercurrents in Xiling City were turbulent, but the mystic forest was quiet and peaceful. Even the few people underground were the same. After chatting, Dugamabao and the rest started to wait at the side like Rong Xiu. Since things have already come to this, there's no use saying anything else. But the girl is still that girl. What else can I do? I can only continue to pamper her. Time passed slowly. After some time, the legendary 3-eyed eagle's physical body in front of Chu Luiyue was finally completely reconstructed. Hula! It suddenly spread its wings. A loud and clear cry reverberated in the air. Digression. Tomorrow, 12 o'clock mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 8:12. This clear cry pierced through the clouds and mist, and one could even faintly hear the roar of a dragon. Its body was muscular, and its feathers were layered. When it spread its wings, it could almost cover the sky. Chu Luiyue could even clearly see each and every feather that was shiny and clean. Its eyes were black, and only its third eye was a brilliant purplish gold color. It was extremely noble. This was the true legendary 3-eyed eagle. Its aura was actually several times stronger than before. In fact, it even faintly suppressed Dumpling. Chu Luiyue was secretly surprised. In fact, although the legendary 3-eyed eagle was also a divine beast, its level was not the highest. The crimson gold heavenly phoenix and the great phoenix dragon were 2 great ancient divine beasts, supreme existences. Below them were some races, and according to the bloodline power in their bodies, they were divided into different levels. For example, a red-tailed phoenix like Dumpling was the closest type to the crimson gold heavenly phoenix. Therefore, by right, Dumpling's level was ranked above the legendary 3-eyed eagle. However, because the legendary 3-eyed eagle had fused with the great phoenix dragon's bloodline power and inherited 2 sets of bones, it was actually superior to Dumpling, who had just broken through not long ago. The legendary 3-eyed eagle was also shocked. Feeling its real physical body and the surging power in its body, its chest and abdomen seemed to be surging. It was done. It was really done. After being suppressed in this dark place for thousands of years, even it was filled with despair. However, this day had finally come. And all of this depended on one person, Chu Luiyue. If she had not brought it away, if she had not formed a contract with it, if she had not helped it find the purplish gold Bodhi leaf, it would definitely be trapped there forever and eventually die without a sound. The legendary 3-eyed eagle folded its wings and lowered its head slightly to look at Chu Luiyue. "I, the 287th generation Eagle Master of the legendary 3-eyed Eagle clan, Zichen, am willing to follow my master in life and death." A clear and powerful voice sounded in her heart. Every word was sincere and loyal. Chu Luiyue widened her eyes slightly. "Eagle Lord? Wasn't that the highest status existence in the 3-eyed Eagle clan? It turned out to be, due to my special identity, I have concealed something from my master. I hope that my master will forgive me." The legendary 3-eyed eagle continued. At this time, its voice was very different from before. It sounded more like a young man in his 20s. Chu Luiyue was dumbfounded. She not only contracted a mythological beast, but this mythological beast also happened to be the leader of the clan? "Zichen? Is that your real name?" The legendary 3-eyed eagle lightly nodded. As divine beasts, there were very few that could form contracts with humans. Especially since it was once the Eagle Master, it was naturally more concerned about these things. Even if it did not think for itself, it had to think for the entire godly three-eyed eagle clan. Therefore, even though it had formed a contract with Chu Luiyue, there was still one last hurdle that it had yet to cross. Until now, Chu Luiyue had helped it reconstruct its body, which was equivalent to granting it a new life. Under such circumstances, it had given its body and mind completely. When it returned to the clan in the future, it could also account to them. It had a clear conscience toward itself, toward Chu Luiyue, and toward the clan. Chu Luiyue blinked and took a while to react. You have your own considerations. Why would I blame you? Chu Luiyue smiled and her eyes curved. I'm more than happy. Eagle Master. Even though she did not know much about mythological beasts, she knew that it was a rare and fortunate thing for the leader of such a clan to agree to form a contract with her. What kind of luck did she have? Zichen? Then can I call you that in the future? As you command, my master. The legendary three-eyed eagle said respectfully. Chu Luiyue's smile deepened, and her eyes were as bright as the stars. She knew that the legendary three-eyed eagle had never been very close to her. The two of them had been enemies at the beginning, then restrained each other, and then cooperated with each other. They had gone through too much in between. For such a mythological beast that had been suppressed for thousands of years, it was indeed very difficult to make it submit completely. Even after the two of them formed a contract and were bound together in life and death, Chu Luiyue knew that there was always something between them. Today, that invisible barrier had finally been broken. From this moment on, the legendary three-eyed eagle was completely loyal to her. To Chu Luiyue, there was only joy in her heart. She knew that the legendary three-eyed eagle's willingness to tell her its true identity was the greatest sincerity. Seeing that Chu Luiyue did not hold any grudges, Zichen's last worry was completely put down. Its figure flashed, and it returned to Chu Luiyue's body. Chu Luiyue slowly exhaled. Thinking about how she had inexplicably formed a contract with the Eagle Master of the legendary three-eyed eagle, her mood was very complicated. Originally, she wanted to ask Zichen what had happened back then that it had been suppressed in that 9-story pagoda. But before she could open her mouth, she felt a few pairs of eyes staring at her with burning gazes. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. Only then did she remember that there were a few people beside her. She slowly looked up. On the left was the man in black. On the right were the 3 people who called her you. At this moment, these people all looked over. Your armor has been repaired. Rong Xiu leaned against the stone wall and said lazily. Chu Luiyue was delighted and immediately wanted to go over. On the other side, Gudu Mabao also spoke. You haven't answered my question just now. Chu Luiyue stopped in her tracks. She looked at the man in black and then looked at the 3 people. For a moment, she was in a difficult position. For some reason, she faintly felt that the air seemed to be filled with killing intent. Should she go and take back her pure gold armor first? Or should she go and ask those people what exactly they did with her? Chu Luiyue was a little conflicted. She had an inexplicable premonition in her heart. These people all seemed to be very important to her. Even she herself didn't know where this thought came from, but after it appeared, it couldn't be dismissed. Chu Luiyue hesitated for a moment, but she still lifted her leg and planned to go and take back her pure gold armor first. After all, she had seen the big master twice. In comparison, he seemed to be more credible. Rong Xiu's lips curled up slightly as he looked up at the few people opposite him. Dugu Mabao's little face darkened. Lan Xiao couldn't help but touch his face. It was really strange. Rong Xiu was wearing a mask now and didn't show his face. How did he still win? Could it be that he had become ugly? Or that girl didn't look at his face anymore? Thinking of this, an ominous premonition suddenly surfaced in Lan Xiao's heart. That girl had changed her body now, and her memories were also in a mess. She might have really changed. At this moment, Chu Luiyue had already walked in front of Rong Xiu. He handed the pure gold armor over. Chu Luiyue carefully took it and looked around carefully. She realized that the broken part on it had really been repaired. She looked up at the man in black in front of her and said gratefully, "Thank you, big master." As soon as she said that, she heard a voice behind her. In this world, there are very few people who can completely repair such a yuan instrument. Since we've met, why don't you take off your mask and show your true face? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 8:13. It was Dugumabao's voice. As his voice fell, the surroundings fell silent for a moment. Chu Liuyue's heart skipped a beat and she couldn't help but glance at him. It was impossible for her not to be curious. However, based on this first master's temperament, she was afraid that he wouldn't agree. If he was willing to reveal his true appearance, he wouldn't have worn a mask when he came. Indeed, just as this thought flashed through her mind, she heard the first master say with a faint smile, "It's precisely because not many people can do it that we have to be even more careful, isn't it?" Dugu Mabao sneered. "Could it be that you're so determined to reject it because you're guilty?" Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. Was he trying to shift all his anger onto him? 99% of those who don't want to reveal their true appearance are ugly. Lan Xiao interjected calmly. "You, Earl, that person can't be trusted. Come over quickly." Chu Liwei was speechless. Why did she seem to have become one of them for no reason? She coughed and explained, "Seniors, I recognize this person. Seniors, I recognize this great master. He has helped me several times before. Seniors, you don't have to be too worried." If this man was plotting something against her, he was too patient to have laid the groundwork for such a long time. Lan Xiao choked. Seeing how Chu Liwei trusted Rong Xiu completely, he couldn't help but scold in a low voice, "Sly. Rong Xiu was wearing a mask and refused to reveal his true appearance to you." They thought that he didn't have much contact with her. Who knew that he had already made his move? From this, it seemed that he had helped her a lot with this identity. Anyone could see that his so-called help was obviously to win the lass's trust. This way, even if he didn't reveal his true appearance, the girl would still trust him completely. How shameless! Chu Liwei actually wanted to see how this first master looked like. However, if these people couldn't persuade him, she naturally couldn't. All of the people present were stronger than her, and she was the weakest among them. How could she have the right to speak? Chu Liwei saw that the atmosphere was a little stiff, so he decided to change the topic. "How should I address you all?" Lan Xiao pointed at himself. Tell me who you are first. We will naturally say who we are." Dugu Mabao suddenly spoke and interrupted Lan Xiao. Lan Xiao looked at him strangely. Didn't Rong Xiu say that the girl still remembered him? Why was he still asking? Diwu Zhangzi gave Lan Xiao a look. Dabao wasn't asking for an answer. He was clearly asking for the girl's attitude. If she admitted it, it would prove that she trusted them. If you don't admit it, then there would be a lot of trouble today. Lan Xiao then understood. He calculated in his heart and instantly felt that this question was very necessary. Thus, the three of them looked at Chu Liwei and waited for her answer. Chu Liue's eyebrows twitched. It seemed that these people were clearly planning to get an answer from her. She pursed her lips and fell into deep thought. She really didn't remember knowing these people. It was really too difficult for her to admit her identity to a few strangers. After all, she didn't even reveal anything to Yuchi Song and the rest. That was the biggest secret she was hiding. But she remembered very clearly that when she heard their voices for the first time, she did feel an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Even when they called her girl, she didn't feel the slightest bit out of place. It seemed like it should be like that. Moreover, her intuition told her that these people wouldn't harm her. To her, this feeling definitely wouldn't arise for no reason. So there really is something going on. However, with this big master beside her, it was really hard to say. After waiting for a while, Chu Liwei still didn't say anything. Dugu Mabao's face gradually turned cold. The aura around him quickly turned cold as if the surrounding air was going to freeze. Then he actually turned around and left. Lan Xiao and Diwu Zhangzi were both shocked. "Why are you leaving all of a sudden?" Dugu Mabao said coldly. "Why are you staying here if you don't leave?" Looking at that girl, it was obvious that she didn't trust them. Thinking about how he rushed over in a hurry, Dugamabao was even angrier. He shouldn't have come. Diwu Zhangzi chased after him and said in a voice that only the few of them could hear, "Aya, it's not like you don't know her." She forgot. She had forgotten all of them. Wasn't it normal that she didn't trust them now? Didn't they see that she didn't even recognize Rong Xiu? Lan Xiao couldn't help but say, "That's right, why are you angry with her? You've waited for so many years and finally met her. Why do you have to make such a fuss? If you want to leave, leave by yourself." "I'm not leaving." Who knew what Rong Xiu was planning to do if he was leaving? Upon hearing that, Dugamabao walked even faster. Seeing that his figure was about to disappear into the darkness, Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly blurted out, "Dabao. Stop fooling around." Dugamabao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Lan Xiao and Diwu Zhangzi widened their eyes in shock. Rong Xiu's gaze moved slightly. The entire space was dead silent. Chu Liyue was dumbfounded after shouting that. What did she just say? She called him Dabao and told him to stop fooling around? Chu Liyue's vision went dark. She didn't even know how she managed to yell that out. She just blurted it out naturally after seeing that scene. Any one of these people who stood up would probably be a big shot who could summon the wind and summon the rain. Not only did she not answer the other party's question directly, she even used such a tone to speak to them like this. Chu Liyue felt a chill on her neck. Although she had always been bold and unbridled, she still knew her place. She knew very well who she could offend and who she couldn't. If she shouted that out, based on the other party's bad temper, how would he deal with her? Just as Chu Liyue was feeling uneasy, Dugamabao turned around. That adorable little face was filled with astonishment and ecstasy. Ecstasy? Chu Liyue closed her eyes hard and looked over again. Could it be that she saw wrongly because of the distance? Who would have such a reaction after being shouted at like that? Dugamabao couldn't help but ask, "What did you just say?" Chu Liyue tried her best to make her smile look sincere. I don't." Before she could finish speaking, she saw that Dugamabao's eyes were actually red. His eyes were flickering and he actually looked like he was crying. Chu Liyue was dumbfounded. What was going on? Before she could figure it out, Dugamabao wiped his tears and said stubbornly, "At least you have a conscience." Chu Liyue was speechless. Digression, it was so stuffy that she couldn't breathe. Continue at 6 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from AI Network. Chapter 8:14. Chu Liyue didn't understand. She really didn't understand. Since when did the world become like this? She had been speaking nicely just now, but the other party was indifferent. When she accidentally flipped out, the other party felt that it was especially good. Although it wasn't appropriate to describe him as crying tears of joy, Chu Liyue's mind was blank now, and she couldn't think of any other words. "That?" She spoke hesitantly, not knowing what to say for a moment. Dabao, it didn't sound like a big name. When that young man called him that just now, his expression didn't seem very good. But why did he seem very happy when she called him that? "What about me? What about me? Girl, there's still me." Before Chu Liyue could say anything, Diwu Zhangzi, who was at the side, immediately reacted and shouted with anticipation. Since the girl called him Dabao, she would definitely be able to call out their titles too. Although she had forgotten all of them, some things had already become instinctive and wouldn't disappear just like that. Lan Xiao glanced at him with an unhappy expression and snorted. Children who know how to cause trouble get sweets. If it were any other time, Dugamabao would definitely fight with Lan Xiao after hearing this. But he was in a good mood now and couldn't be bothered to argue with Lan Xiao. He didn't even look at Lan Xiao and replied confidently, "Cause trouble. Go ahead, who's stopping you? See if the girl called you or not." Lan Xiao gritted his teeth and controlled his expression with great difficulty. "I'm not going to argue with a kid." This face was his favorite recently, and he couldn't ruin it casually. Not worth it, really not worth it. Dugamabao couldn't be bothered to be angry with Lan Xiao now. His heart was filled with pride and joy now. Although he was already trying his best to control it, A smile still appeared from the corner of his eyes. Faced with Di Wuzhang's passionate question, Chu Liyue's eyelids twitched. Shall what? Erbao. She really didn't remember. God knows how she managed to say that out loud just now. Now, she could basically confirm that she did know these people before. However, it was still a mystery as to what their relationship was. The strength of these three people was tyrannical. Even if she was once at her peak, she was still not enough to look at in front of them. Logically speaking, she should be very respectful to these three people. But just now, she really blurted it out. How bold must she be to dare to do this? Di Wuzhangze waited for quite a while. Seeing that Chu Liyue still hadn't spoken, he began to feel a little anxious. Lass, think about it again. It's me. My name has 4 words. He's Di Wuzhangze. Dugu Mabao said directly. Di Wuzhangze's expression froze, and the veins on his forehead throbbed. Debao, what are you doing? Can't you see that she can't think of anything? It's already not easy to remember me. Why do you guys have such high expectations? Besides, my name also has 4 characters. If she could really remember your name, would she still need to remind her? Dugu Mabao pointed at Lan Xiao. I'm Lan Xiao. Lan Xiao was very straightforward. He directly reported his name and rolled his eyes at Dugu Mabao. Chu Liyue was a little embarrassed. Now, among these 3 people, she only didn't know Debao's name. She quickly searched in her mind. There didn't seem to be any powerful people with these names in the Tianling dynasty. From their appearance, there didn't seem to be anyone who matched these people. Then, these people were either hidden powerful people or not from the Tianling dynasty. She politely bowed to them one by one. Lan Xiao sighed, a little disappointed. Looking at her like this, she really didn't remember much. Being able to shout out that sentence just now should be a pleasant surprise already. It's all because that little brat is the most troublesome. Now that she has lost her memory, she can still say this subconsciously. Di Wuzhangze was interrupted, but he had always been a gentle person, so he didn't care about this. It's always good that this lass can remember a little. She'll definitely gradually remember in the future. Seeing that their attitudes had softened, Chu Liyue deliberated for a moment and asked, Seniors, what's seniors? Just call us like you did before. Lan Xiao wasn't used to hearing her speak like this, so he waved his hand. You used to call him Debao, call me Lan Xiao, and call him Diwu. Even though Chu Liyue felt that it was strange, she could only go with the flow and obediently nod her head since the other party had said so. You should be able to tell that I have indeed forgotten some things. As for your identities and how we met, I also don't remember clearly. Chu Liyue spoke very tactfully, but Lan Xiao and the others were all smart people. They immediately understood that she was inquiring about some things in the past. Lan Xiao had just raised his head when he felt a ray of light landing on him. He looked up and saw Rong Xiu looking at him with a heavy gaze. Lan Xiao suddenly remembered what Rong Xiu said before. You, now doesn't remember anything outside of the Tianling dynasty. If he were to tell her rashly, it might affect her cognition and recovery instead. It's best to let nature take its course. Lan Zhao's Adam's apple bobbed. Although he had always disliked Rong Xiu, he agreed with what he said. After all, it was related to the lass, so he had to be extra careful. Thinking of this, he changed the topic. We are all idle people, and our identities aren't important. However, we met in Dahuang Swamp previously. Chu Liyue widened her eyes slightly in surprise. In Dahuang Swamp? She had come to Dahuang Swamp many times, but she didn't have any impression of these people. However, thinking about it carefully, she had always thought that her memory was complete. If it weren't for these successive events that continuously confirmed that she had indeed lost a part of her memory, she probably wouldn't have believed all of this. Then, her past with these people should also have been lost in that part of her memory. Seeing Chu Liyue's surprised and curious expression, Di Wuzhangze couldn't help but remind her. It's in the Red Moon Desert. You used to love going there the most. You often stayed there for a long time. Red Moon Desert. Chu Liyue blinked. In her impression, the Red Moon Desert seemed to be the place she went the least. However, they said that it was her favorite place to go. Then, Chu Liwei wanted to ask more in detail, but Dugu Mabao suddenly looked up. It's almost time. Lan Xiao and Di Wuzhang's expressions changed simultaneously. Why so fast? Lan Xiao frowned. How long have they been here? They haven't even exchanged a few words with the lass, and they're leaving already? Once he left, he would have to wait for another month. Chu Liwei couldn't help but ask. What time? Di Wuzhangzi naturally answered. It's the time we should go back. Go back? Go back to the Red Moon Desert? Chu Liwei didn't ask, but she inexplicably thought of this answer in her heart. She paused. How did she know all of this? Digression. Dear friends, when I was cooking at noon, I accidentally poured boiling water on my left hand. Then all 3 of my fingers were basically scalded. My thumb and index finger are fine. After applying ice for a few hours, it still hurts a lot. Basically, I still have to apply ice every half a minute. Fortunately, although it's red and swollen, the blisters aren't too serious. Currently, the situation is slightly better. When it's a little later, I'll try my best to continue. If not, I'll put it on the account first and make up for it when my hand recovers. Also, I should try my best to do it at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Finally, thank you for understanding mobile users. Please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 8:15. Girl, do you want to go back with us? Lan Xiao asked. Since they couldn't stay outside, it would be better to let the girl go with them. Chu Liwei was stunned. Go to the Red Moon Desert with them? She was actually a little curious, but they should still be waiting for her outside in Changwonzhou. She had been down there for so long, so she didn't know how they were doing now. At this moment, Rong Xiu suddenly spoke. When I came, I saw a dancing lotus at Mirror Lake. Dancing lotus? Chu Liwei was pleasantly surprised. This was a rare heavenly treasure. Even she couldn't help but be tempted. Lan Xiao couldn't help but curse. How shameless. You know that the girl likes these things, so you purposely seduced her. Di Wuzhangzi shook his head. Sigh, it's a pity that no herbs grow well in the Red Moon Desert. If she wants other things, that's fine. We'll be able to scrape together what we can get. But these herbs, isn't this all because of your sins in the early years? Don't you know why the Red Moon Desert became like this? Dugu Mabao glanced coldly at the 2 of them. Lan Xiao touched his chin. Don't say it as if it has nothing to do with you. You were the one who caused the most trouble back then. How dare he talk about them like this now? Dugu Mabao choked and was speechless. Forget it. Didn't you see that the girl's eyes lit up when she heard about the dancing lotus? Let her go. Di Wuzhangzi was open-minded. We can just ask her to look for us after she retrieves that thing. Dugu Mabao and Lan Xiao thought about it and felt that this suggestion was not bad, so they agreed. Thus, they didn't even ask and directly said, then come back after you're done at Mirror Lake. We're all waiting for you. Chu Liwei was speechless. She didn't seem to have agreed to go yet, but it seemed like she couldn't reject them. Chu Liwei finally nodded. Only then did a satisfied expression appear on their faces. Lan Xiao glanced at Rong Xiu and said meaningfully, Don't worry. Lass, some people look like decent people, but in reality, they're full of evil tricks. You must be careful and not be deceived by some people. Chu Liwei silently lowered his eyes. Was he talking about the first master? Although she also felt that this person wasn't simple, she didn't want to say that to his face. It could only be said that having strength meant having confidence. If it was the current her, she really couldn't afford to offend any of them. So we have to survive between the 2 sides. Rong Xiu was not angry when he heard this. These few people had always doted on you, very much. Now that they knew that she had experienced so much, they would definitely be very distressed. This kind of attitude was probably due to the fact that she was still present. However, just as this thought flashed through his mind, Dugu Mabao looked over. Keep up. Rong Xiu's brows twitched. As expected, he couldn't be too merciful to these people. How could he forget that they had never given him any leeway? Chu Liwei looked at the first master, then at Dugu Mabao and the rest. She narrowed her eyes. You guys know each other? At first she couldn't tell, but after going back and forth, she really didn't hear that they were strangers. After she said that, both parties fell silent for a moment. No one denied it. Chu Liuyue's mood suddenly became very strange. Since they knew each other, why did De Bao deliberately ask the first master to remove his mask so politely at the start? She faintly felt that there was a secret hidden in this. Thinking about it carefully, those words should have been said to her? Then, was it also because of her that the first master refused to remove his mask? A white light suddenly flashed in Chu Liuyue's mind. She suddenly realized something. She looked at the first master and stared at him. Could it be that she recognized the face under the mask? Chu Liuyue's heart suddenly started beating faster, and that familiar feeling became stronger. Rong Xiu's gaze turned slightly, avoiding her gaze, and walked towards Duga Mabao and the rest. When they brushed past each other, Chu Liuyue suddenly reached out and grabbed his wrist. Rong Xiu avoided it silently. Chu Liuyue looked up and asked word by word, "What are you afraid of, First Master?" If he wasn't guilty and was afraid of being recognized, why would he hide like this? The man opposite her didn't seem to be nervous at all. He only smiled faintly and said, "I'm sorry, my wife's family is very strict. She doesn't like me touching other women." Chu Liuyue was suddenly stunned. She never thought that the other party would throw out such a sentence. This reason seemed ridiculous, but it didn't seem wrong. While she was still in a daze, Rong Xiu walked over. Duga Mabao's face was cold and solemn. Lan Zhao's eyes were full of disdain, and he couldn't help but spit. "Madam? Isn't it just you, After not seeing him for a few years, this fellow's acting skills have improved. When the truth is revealed and you, knows his identity, let's see what will happen to him." Only Di Wuzhangzi gave him a thumbs up. Relying on the fact that you, didn't remember anything, Rong Xiu actually dared to lie to you, so brazenly now. His guts were truly extraordinary. Rong Xiu raised his brows slightly. "Everyone please." Duga Mabao glanced at Chu Liuyue, who was standing far away. "I'll settle the score with this fellow when we get out. Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, the few of them quickly flew up. Chu Liuyue looked up. Suddenly her gaze froze. Her heart suddenly skipped a beat. She had seen the first master's back view before. The man in the octagonal pavilion by the cliff. Shi Ling. After Xiahou Tingan heard the news of Jiang Yuji and Xiahou Yushu's engagement, he dragged his injured body to the Xiahou residence. But after walking for a distance, his anger gradually subsided, and his mind calmed down. It was currently daytime, and there were many people on the streets. If he returned to the Xiahou residence like this, he definitely wouldn't be able to do anything. He might even become a laughingstock in the end. Hence, after much thought, he still went back in the end. Luckily, Xiao Dai was very obedient and didn't ask much as she took care of him wholeheartedly. A few days later, his injuries were mostly healed, and he decided to take action. He waited patiently until night fell. After Xiao Dai fell asleep, he quietly went out of the door. It was already late at night, and there was almost no one on the streets. Only a few of the houses were still lit up. Xiahou Tingan returned to the Xiahou residence's back door just like that. The back door wasn't guarded so strictly, so he easily drugged the two guards and secretly barged in. He was the most familiar with the Xiahou residence, so even at night, he still clearly knew every direction. Just like that, he successfully arrived at Xiahou Rong's study room without any obstructions. At this point, the study room was still lit up, and it was obvious that someone was inside. Xiahou Tingan held his breath and went closer. Just as he walked to the corner, he heard a scoff from inside. "If I knew that Jiang Yuqing was like this, I wouldn't have betrayed the princess back then. Digression, I'll probably end it here for today. My hand is already better, so everyone doesn't have to worry about kissing me. Tomorrow at 12 a.m., mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from AI Network." Chapter 816. Xiahou Tingan's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely knew that there was something fishy about the princess's death back then. If not, the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill wouldn't have landed in his father's hands. He wasn't dumb and knew what he could and couldn't ask. Hence, even if he had guessed it, he had never honestly told his father about it. Now that he suddenly heard these words, Xiahou Tingan's heart was still beating rapidly. For a moment, he wanted to retreat and didn't want to listen anymore. He knew that the more he knew about such things, the more dangerous it would be. But just as he was feeling conflicted, another voice came from the room. You should know what kind of person he is from the moment he planned to work with the third princess to deal with the princess. Xiahou Tingan knitted his brows. This voice sounds familiar. The princess took care of him many times back then. If it weren't for the princess, Jianghu would have died countless times. Such an ungrateful person, what wouldn't he do? But we're just taking what we need, so we don't have to be so calculative. Xiahou Rong said angrily. How can we not be calculative? This time, he took the opportunity of Jiang Yuji's wedding to get the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill back. From the beginning to the end, all my efforts were for naught. Back then, I agreed to work with Jiang Yuqing to get the 9 clouds yuan recovery pill. I didn't expect to lose both her and the pill. Who asked your second young master to create such a scene at Chunfeng restaurant? Let the Jiang family have the upper hand? If this didn't happen, I could still fight with them. But now I can only give in. Hearing them mention him, Xiahou Tingan instantly tensed up. Then he heard Xiahou Rong sigh and say, Among my sons, I've always liked him the most. Among my sons, I've always liked him the most. Later on, when I found out that Jiang Yuji liked him, I poured a lot of effort into him. Originally, I thought that after their wedding he would naturally inherit my position. Who would have thought that he would actually be so disappointing? Xiahou Rong expected better from him. After knowing that Xiahou Tingan had a girl at Chunfeng restaurant, he knew that he was in big trouble. Originally, he wanted Xiahou Tingan to go to the Jiang residence personally to apologize, but he didn't know what was good for him and refused to do so. In the end, he was chased out of the Xiahou residence. Hearing this, Xiahou Tingan felt very upset. Just as he was hesitating whether to admit his mistake, he heard another man laugh. So what if I don't live up to expectations? Wasn't there still third young master? In my opinion, he is much more mature than your second young master. From the beginning to the end of his marriage with Jiang Yuji, he had performed extremely well. It was said that he had been going to the Jiang residence to accompany Jiang Yuji every day for the past few days, and their relationship had developed quite well. Xiahou Rong smiled. You're right. In the past, because of his mother's lowly birth, I never paid much attention to him. He had been keeping a low profile all these years. I didn't expect him to be so capable. Compared to his second brother, he was much better. After this, second brother would probably be crippled. It would be good to let him wake up on his own. Xiahou Tingan was dazed. He didn't hear what they said after that. His mind was filled with Xiahou Rong's words. It had only been a few days, and Xiahou Yushu, that bastard, had already completely occupied his position. The last bit of hesitation in Xiahou Tingan's heart completely disappeared. Now that Jiang Yuqing has the upper hand in Xiling, it's not wise to fight with him anymore. That man persuaded. Xiahou Rong sneered. If you force me into a corner, I'll just reveal everything that happened back then. If I didn't help to forge the document, how could the princess have moved the 13 U-guards out of Xiling back then? As long as the 13 U-guards were around, Jiang Yuqing couldn't have succeeded. If he keeps forcing me, don't blame me for fighting to the death with him. Xiahou Tingan pressed his chest as his heart beat crazily, and his eyes were filled with shock. I see. When the princess got into trouble back then, the 13 U-guards were indeed not in Xiling. Everyone only knew that something happened at the border, so the princess sent the 13 U-guards to investigate, but they never returned. Not long after, Jiang Yuqing directly announced that the 13 U-guards had betrayed their master and ordered them to be killed. Other than the most important few people, nobody knew why the princess sent all 13 of them out back then. According to her past habits, she would usually send a few people out and leave someone beside her. I didn't expect my father to be the one behind this. The current Jiang Yuqing can't be compared to the past. Even if you say those things now, who would believe it? The princess's death is linked, and you and I are just one of the links. Once he said that, the two people in the room didn't speak for a long time. After some time, that man seemed to be planning to leave. Forget it. Don't mention this in the future, lest you attract more trouble. Before he could finish speaking, a strange sound came from the yard. Who is it? Xiahou Rong hollered in the room. He immediately rushed out of the room. Xiahou Tingan's heart was about to jump out of his throat. But then, he realized that the sound came from another direction. The moment Xiahou Rong came out, he saw a black figure flash past quickly. He cursed in his heart and immediately chased after it. Previously, he specially asked the servants to leave and ordered that nobody could enter this place. In addition, he was filled with anger whenever he talked about Jianghu, which caused them to be careless and not even know that someone secretly came here. I don't know how much of what I just said was heard. Thinking of this, Xiahou Rong became even more nervous, and his heart burned. If someone finds out and spreads it, the consequences will be unimaginable. The person in the room also followed closely behind Xiahou Rong and left. However, he didn't chase after Xiahou Rong. Instead, he changed directions and left this place with a few leaps. Xiahou Tingan originally wanted to see who that person was, but he was worried that his identity would be exposed, so he didn't dare to move. Hence, he only saw that person's blurry back view in the dark. He thought for a while and didn't recognize that person's identity. But very quickly, he threw this matter to the back of his mind. This was because the study room was currently empty. It was a good chance to take action. Before Xiahou Rong left, he set up a barrier here. However, this wasn't a problem for Xiahou Tingan. As he was doted on since he was young, Xiahou Tingan always carried the seal that could break Xiahou Rong's barrier. He took out the seal, and a faint light flashed across. Then, a wave-like barrier appeared in front of him. He injected his force into the seal and stuck it on the barrier. An opening instantly appeared. He stepped in. At this point, he didn't know that there was a figure following behind him like a shadow. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.